so quiet.
To the Stormwater Creek podcast. This is Abe Bowman to my right, and y'all wouldn't know which direction he's at, but I'm Brandon Albert. I'm taking over because I'm a quiet guy, and Abe's going to call me out on it.
No, I'm not. I like this. This is awesome.
It's a good energy in here right now.
Take charge, Brandon, is what I'm loving to see.
All right, I'm scared. You take it back.
Oh, God. Oh, God. It's out of control. So, well, I think you're doing a great job. Stick with it. What's the hypothetical?
Yeah, we got a hypothetical question right now. It's what song are you currently jamming out to in your car on the commute in the morning or when you're coming home from work?
I don't know if I can admit this on the radio.
On the radio? You can admit it on the radio.
On the podcast.
You can admit it on the podcast.
Well, I have kind of a super guilty pleasure right now.
Ooh.
And it's a Jonas Brothers song.
Is it really?
Oh, God, it's terrible. It's
Jealous.
terrible. Not jealous. A Sucker for You?
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't even know that one.
Yeah, that's so it's.
And I'm 12. So.
And you are really 12. I mean, I'm not really jamming it like all the time. I'm normally a podcast listener, or I listen to The Ticket for you Dallas people. You know, it's a sports radio station here in Dallas. I listen to that a lot, or podcasts. But a song, I'm gonna have to say right now, it's a Jonas Brothers. It's so bad.
Are you on the Spotify? And it's easy to just hit rewind and replay every.
Well, I'm not like going back and listening to it over and over again. And you know, it's really when I'm driving in the car with my wife. We got it. Yeah, it's. I don't know what it is about the song. It's just somehow catchy to me.
She liked it first, and then you liked it, or this was all your discovery?
Yeah, she liked it first. Clearly, I'm not like listening to the latest Jonas Brothers album drop and like, oh man, but it sucks. I can't. I hate it.
It's so good.
But I admitted it. So is that good or bad?
Yeah. No, I mean it's you. It's all you, baby.
So what about you?
Oh, now I just joined this band. I need to know 40 songs to play. But right now, probably the one that I like listening to the most out of our whole set is probably Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, it's Ray Vaughan, huh?
Well,
see how much cooler you are than me just
1983.
Now? Yeah.
Versus 2000. And, well, there's probably a new song.
Like last year.
Just a couple years difference.
Yeah. I mean, there's other songs that I would, I don't claim this. The hypothetical for people going, "What the hell, Abe?" is not what is your favorite song.
No, that's
right.
What
this is not the hypothetical. It is at right now. What is the song you're singing and jamming out to your car? And unfortunately, right now, that song is kind of stuck in my head.
Jonas Brothers.
I can't get over it. I don't know what it is.
Jonas Brothers, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Same.
You win, bro. You win.
They're just as good.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Aren't they both from Texas?
It's all verses and choruses, you know.
No, the Jonas Brothers are not from Texas. One of them lives in Texas, though.
We're going on a tangent, but I did see one of them at Cabela's in Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's Sansa Stark's husband.
Is it?
Joe Jonas.
Wow, here we go.
Are you a Game of Thrones? Are you a Game of Thrones fan? Oh God, I'm just nerding out hardcore. Our guest on the phone is just like, oh, he hung up. Oh, yeah, no. But we are joined by a bona fide Texas game warden, Mr. Aaron Sims. So, Aaron, you have to now be on the spot, and somehow you have to come up with something not as dorky as the Jonas Brothers and somehow cooler than Stevie Ray Vaughan. So, balls in your court.
That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to do. The one song that first came out, it was kind of corny to me, but I guess it's kind of what we do out there, and you're going to laugh, and I'm probably going to get the hate mail, but there's that Luke Bryan song, The Hunting, Fishing, and Loving Every Day.
Yeah.
Don't start throwing pencils at me, okay? But yeah,
Aaron, I said the song I'm singing is a Jonas Brothers song, so...
You never know.
I believe they call this jumping on the grenade for a brother, That's not a bad song, though.
I was literally going to say, whenever we were introducing, I was going to say hunting, fishing, loving every day, just as like a general term to use. And then he just said that, which is why, whenever you said that, I was looking at Abe, my eyes got real big. I'm like, this guy's in my head.
Yeah.
Hey, see, I'm telling you. Yeah, listen to that song. It's what we live for. That's for sure.
That's
right. Yeah. So, How did you? So what's your role with the state, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but it's always fun to ask every game warden, when did you first want to become a game warden? And everybody specifically remembers. They have their own story when they remembered where they were. Of course, mine was way back in 6th grade, believe it or not. I had a game warden come to our school and do a presentation, and, he had a cool uniform, big truck. I liked being outdoors, and just pursued it as much as I could. I'm actually a transplant from New Mexico to Texas, so I kind of got my roots in the outdoors growing up and on public land out in New Mexico, and then got here as quick as I could, right, like everybody says. And I was really fortunate. I studied hard. I got my degree in wildlife science and a master's in communication, and threw my name in the hat. Fortunate enough to get picked to be a Texas game warden, and I started 2012 out in the same region where I'm currently at, which is west of Lubbock on the New Mexico state line. And so I kind of rode that line, that Texas-New Mexico state line, in patrolling out in the middle of nowhere. Very interesting dynamic. A lot of places in Texas, there's multiple game wardens per county. Out here, we're a little different. It's multiple counties per game warden.
Yeah.
You got a lot of square miles to cover, a lot of territory, but it makes you a really good investigator, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine you can get pretty stretched thin when, it's like, hey, I need you here, which is, mile 1, and then another place which is 150 miles away,
Yeah, and that's inevitably when it happens. You're on the state line, you get a call, and it's just west of Lubbock, Texas. So yeah. You gotta go. But that brings up a point of you gotta have good partners, and you gotta have a good communication from local hunters, landowners, and other agencies. Because if I worked 24/7 all year, I still wouldn't catch all the poachers and people breaking the law. So yeah, that's when the good hunters come in. They give me good tips, and hey, I want to check into this, and it's really a team effort. Yeah, there's no way I could do it myself.
Yeah, I can imagine where like Gary Miller here in Dallas has got, like you said, he's got eight guys helping him out, and hunters that because I mean I've called the game warden before when it's like you shouldn't have a shotgun out here, you're walking around just shooting, and you're shooting,
in white pants.
Oh, I feel like you should be able to call the game warden when you see somebody hunting in white pants.
White pants? I don't think I've seen that yet. And luckily, that would draw my attention.
Yeah,
those guys, they do a lot of stuff too, because their big thing is water, so they get a lot of calls on area lakes. Because that's something maybe listeners might not know. We dedicate a lot of portion of our time to guarding the waterways and people recreating on motorboats and personal watercraft. So there's wardens over there in that amount too for a reason to cover those lake calls. Yeah,
there's a ton of lakes around here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it's a never-ending job. And
there's a lot of pros of the job. The pros definitely outweigh the cons, right? So I'm not gonna lie, it's the best job ever.
Yeah.
But the cons, the 24/7 on call. So a game warden's responsible for being on call 24/7. Say I'm sitting in my patrol truck right now. If something major happens, and it could be just a disaster, like the fertilizer plant explosion out of West.
Yeah.
You get the call, hey, we need units over there now, and we kind of operate on operational readiness. Got to have your bags ready to go, always ready to go. And you can't be told to grab a boat or something, and your tires on your trailer's flat, right? So you always got to make sure everything's up to speed. So you could be called in 2-3 a.m. Get up and go. That's your job.
Well, I'm sure that you guys went down. I know the game wardens do a lot of stuff for like you said, for like the hurricanes that came through a couple years ago. That I know you guys get down there and you're leading that charge down there a lot.
Right. Yeah. A lot of my partners, myself, we responded to Hurricane Harvey. First at Rockport where it hit first, and went back out in the Gulf and started dumping. We all know the story. Tremendous amounts of rainfall, feet of rain on Houston. Yeah. We were diverted to Houston, and it was pretty wild there. But again, team effort. I mean, other agencies do; they kick in, but
sure.
There's certain. We have the 4x4 trucks in a lot of the flat bottom boats we're able to utilize in those search and rescue operations.
You guys are kind of designed for that, where
we're designed for it.
You know, Houston Police Department's not necessarily designed to roll around with, not accustomed to have to deal with, that kind of stuff on a normal day-to-day basis,
Right. Yeah, and that's what we have, that equipment, and we're a state asset, so we get sent all over the state of Texas.
Sure.
When the governor tells us to go, we go.
Yeah. So, a couple things, what's the thing, what violation or behavior is something that, I'm sure in dealing with game warden, it seems like there's things as a person, a hunter, right? There seems like things that you can kind of, they're like, okay, it's not a big deal, fix it, let's move on. And then there's other things that are like, now I'm mad at you. Like I can't stand you, right? So like what are some of those things that people do that are like, yeah, now I hate you. Like what's the worst thing that somebody could do for you?
Well, it's not necessarily me, but it's the resources. So, you yourself, the listeners, wildlife is the property of the people, right? So anytime they disrespect the resources, it's everybody's wildlife. It's not just that one person. But I will start off by saying the overwhelming majority of hunters and anglers are good people, law-abiding, follow the law, and, there may be some administrative issues, maybe a stamp here or there, and, we can deal with that, but overwhelming majority, 95% off the top of my head, just try and follow the law, and maybe just a few mistakes. And the other 5% we're going to worry about, they don't care about wildlife, they don't respect it, and they don't care about personal property rights, and they don't care about rights of other hunters. And the problem is the 95%, they don't get the coverage, but the 5% they do.
Sure.
And in this day and age, we need all the help we can get. As the population of hunters and anglers in Texas, believe it or not, the bastion of hunting and fishing is declining.
Yeah.
And so the more people we get on the bandwagon saying, no, this is why you shouldn't have hunting. Here's an example. That's what I think irritates most people, and what I hear on the earful. Legally, of course, everything we deal with ranges from citations, which are tickets called Class C misdemeanors. You're missing a stamp. Class C misdemeanor.
Yeah.
But it does go all the way upward. We're fortunate in Texas that we do have some laws with some teeth to protect the resources, and the highest level is going to be a felony, a state jail felony, and that's going to be taking wildlife without consent, which means if you're going on property, you're taking it without consent with the 4 big animals. So both deer, mule deer, white-tailed deer, then bighorn sheep, and then pronghorn. You take any one of those 4 without consent from the landowner, and that's, you're looking at a felony.
If you shoot a mule deer or a bighorn, like a white-tailed deer, like I hate to rank these things, but in the state of Texas, if you shoot a mule deer or a bighorn, like you should be shot on the spot. Like not just shot, but like illegally take one of those animals.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you should just you just get put down. You're a rabid dog.
Well,
Well,
that speaks to the frustration we hear for sure. And if you think about it, we made cases throughout the year. Not just up here, all across the state. Several recent cases. You're not just looking at the felony. Say the worst that you can think of, which happened, a couple years ago. 2 road hunters, middle of the night, going down the road, spotlighting off the road, so that's illegal. You're hunting deer at night, which they were. Those are Class A misdemeanors. So that's actually hunting deer at night is one step below a felony. So that's up to deer in jail just by hunting a deer at night. So I'll leave it there. But these 2 individuals, they went on this county road and they started spotlighting for deer. They saw a deer, a really big buck, and they saw it. They did not have permission. So 1, they were illegally hunting at night, Class A misdemeanor. 2, they hunted with an artificial light on a deer, Class A misdemeanor. 3, they hunted from a vehicle on the roadway. And then the other whammy was they shot the deer on land without consent. So you can see how it starts adding up.
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of times when we get into those cases, it may be easy to focus on 2 guys they shot a deer at night, case done. But you got to do some digging and realize, oh man, there's a lot of laws that were broken here.
You did a lot of bad things, not just one bad thing. You didn't just speed. You know, you were speeding in a stolen car while drunk
in a school zone.
In a school zone while while carrying an ounce of coke. You know, you got a lot of things going against you, buddy.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's interesting too. More and more every time we're dealing with these, people say the road hunters or these poachers, and a lot of times these individuals are actually engaged in other illegal activities. You're not talking about just a lot of times this guy just wants a buck because he's always wanted one his whole life. We're talking about individuals that might be on methamphetamine, have warrants, are felons in possession of firearms. So shooting a deer at night to them, that's that 5% I was talking about. They can care less. And so we get out there to try and stop those guys.
Yeah. And as far as so I feel like I feel like what are some ways that somebody can help somebody out with not help somebody out, but help a game warden out for a night hunter, just picking up the phone and calling? Are there certain things they should look for and identifying maybe somebody who's just driving around and looking versus somebody who's driving around and doing something wrong,
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, great question. So before you contact the game warden, at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, you probably are going to be hunting that spot for a while, and prior to that 2 a.m. call, you'd want to contact your game warden, develop that relationship. If you have a hunting lease or if you're on public hunting, your game warden is accessible. You can look them up on our website, listed alphabetically by county, in Texas at least, that is. And so developing that relationship, that would be step one, in my opinion. But yeah, as far as getting the good evidence, we always get the calls of one, truck, dark colored, going down the highway, shot off the road. By the time I get there, there's not much I can do with that. So location's great, time's great, but license plates, they really help. And it's hard. Exactly. It's harder than you think for the general public because their adrenaline's going. This guy just shot off the road. I'm in this deer stand, and he shot towards my direction. The heart's going to be pumping. That's for sure.
100%.
But trying to get that license plate, that's key. That's critical. Yeah. If we have a plate, a time, and a location, and an eyewitness, we can do digging.
Yeah, things can come out from there. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and as far as just it's because I feel like so we're both Brandon and I and a lot of people who listen to our podcast are big public land hunters, and so we are trying to find any edge we can to identify, as being public land hunters in the state of Texas. It's not like New Mexico, right? Where you're like, holy crap, there's just you go out that door and there's a ton of spots. So, what about somebody driving around kind of at night doing nothing wrong, right? With a pair of binoculars, maybe not a spotlight, right? Because I feel like that'd be maybe even crossing the line, but with technology today, any one of the resources that would be available to you, just not shooting, not trespassing, just looking. Is that something that's wrong, or is that is that maybe something that you may get pulled over and the game warden go, well, cool, you're just driving around doing nothing wrong here. You're legal. You're not shooting. You don't have a gun in the car. You're fine. Is there anything like that is that? Would that be considered something that would be not a good thing to do?
No. You're able to scout, especially with some of these public lands. 2 weeks before they open, you can go there to scout, and driving the roads is fine as well. Just mind your transportation codes.
Sure, yeah.
Your seatbelt on and lights are on, because we'll contact some individuals every once in a while that will be going down the county road at night without their lights on, and you're kind of interesting. So we'll definitely make a stop at that point.
Yeah,
don't be a danger. Yeah, why your lights off? And,
yeah.
Quick one ever spotlight from a road, any public roadway, and that the county roads that are unpaved, the same deal. You can't spotlight, but you can scout. You can get out and look. You can pull over on the public road. You have the right. It's a public roadway. And that's north of that roadway. So just obviously pull off far enough, and you can spot with your binoculars. A lot of times we'll ask, just, hey, if you're looking on this property, though, it might bring up some interest. If you're really looking hard and scoping this property for a long time and looking at it, my next question is probably going to ask is, do you own that property or is that public?
Yeah.
What do you? If
What
you're
are you
eyeing
doing?
somebody's property, yeah, right.
Yeah, but
So that's
yeah,
something.
I think it's an interesting tactic that I saw some people take that was kind of at night with a thermal monocular essentially. Driving around the outside, like around public land, or private land that they had access to. And I was like, man, that's such a good idea to just get a kind of a survey, of just what's out there when they're moving, when you can maybe see them. And like I said, they did nothing wrong. It wasn't like they were rolling around with a gun or anything. They just had a thermal scope and were able to see deer and then go throw a trail camera out. Right, completely on public land, completely on places that they either had access to legally or or could publicly go out onto and do. But I just thought it was a very interesting tactic. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, that seems like it was like, whoa, is that? Can you do that? Because that's like super genius if that's legal to do. I feel like that's a good idea, but. They were 100% within the frame of the law of what they were doing, and that's where you get that black and white, I think it would be, don't go out with a gun at all. Even, you don't need anything on you,
Yeah, exactly. But you pointed it out. I mean, there is technology nowadays, and it's becoming, a little more affordable. But night vision, also thermals, and you can utilize those tools for sure. Scouting. But like you said, hey, you have a right to be on the property, right? Whether it's public or private, and then B, keeping the firearms at home, and then that's fine. Other than that, that's part of it, part of the hunt, and that's fine too. And I've seen videos of that, and the landowners will share it with me. Hey, look at these huge deer I saw on my property. I was using my thermals. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Just obviously don't be don't be tempted.
Yeah,
and also. I'll bring up another quick example. The guys on the state line, they were actually using a thermal. It was a thermal scope on this nice rifle, and they were shooting feral hogs.
Yeah,
what they thought were feral, and some of them were pretty big. And then they kind of weren't paying attention. They skimmed across, and they thought, well, what is that? Is that a hog? I'm not sure. Let's just go ahead and shoot it anyway. Turned out it was a pronghorn that they shot.
Oh wow!
That night,
no!
Because they thought they were hunting hogs, which is completely illegal at night. That's fine. And so, even if you are, tempted by, hey, that's just a hog, it's using night vision and thermals, you just really want to be sure what you're seeing too before, if you end up hunting on before you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So, good question.
Well, I think that's I think that's a perfect segue into a question that I've always kind of had is like, so let's use that exact thing that you had, right? Two dudes rolling around doing everything legal. They make a mistake. That self-reporting aspect. I mean, how much does that weigh? Like, if let's put Brandon and I in that situation. We were rolling around. We were spotlighting hogs, completely legal, thermal scope. We accidentally shoot a pronghorn. We get up to it. We're like, uh-oh. But we pick up the phone and call Aaron and say, hey, Aaron, man, I hate to do this to you because it's 1:30 in the morning, but I just shot a pronghorn accidentally thinking it was a hog. That's got to be better. What kind of like that? I mean, obviously you still made the infraction. You're going to get a ticket, but clearly that goes a long way as opposed to me, kind of shuffling it aside or pulling the meat apart and and something like that, right? Does that make a difference in kind of the way it's looked at?
Yeah, a huge difference.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, honesty is the best policy. A lot of times, and not even on that contact, other contacts, we're taught to investigate. We don't just jump into a situation. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we'll see hunters off in the distance, and that's why they give us really good spotting scopes and binoculars. We sit and watch. We gather the information before we make a contact. And even if there is a violation, say it's shooting across a road or crossing a fence maybe for a Sandhill Crane that fell, even though you didn't have permission. When we make those contacts, that's part of the investigation.
Yeah.
Is this person a first-time hunter, or has been hunting for 20 years, and he knows better? He or she knows better. And so we always go in a situation with as much information as we can to make the best decision. Because, there is discretion in the game warden world, just like the other police officer world. And so calling me on something like that would have gone way better than what ended up happening with these individuals. They ended up hiding it. One of their friends turned them in. I mean, we spent a lot of time on it. We found shell casings, and we matched it to the gun. And so, something that could have maybe handled with some Class C misdemeanors maybe and civil restitution ended up being handled, Class A misdemeanors for hunting at night, using of weapons, and every situation is different. So there's no right answer, but
sure,
you're exactly call. And going back to that relationship with your game warden, I would know at that point that it's not just random, Joe Schmo calling me. It's okay, man. These people have been trying to do it legal. In fact, they've been giving me tips, and so. Discretion and honesty, they go hand in hand.
It is funny, like, I hunt a particular piece of property. We talked about it it's a piece of public land. It's Tawakoni. Gary Miller covers that as a game warden. And I've gotten to know him because I've run into him a bunch of times. Just him doing checks and routine stuff. And I've called him and talked to him. And I've called and talked to him to just kind of say, hey, when I first started going out there, I picked up the phone, and I'm always amazed at looking up a game warden's phone number on the internet, calling it, and they pick up. Every single time I'm like, oh, Jesus.
It's a celebrity.
I was going to leave a voicemail. I didn't figure I would ever hear back from, you just kind of like, I feel like the public, for people who know, you're like, oh, yeah, that's how it works. But for people who don't, I feel like when you deal with government in most situations, a lot of times it can be 10 steps to get, a lot of places. But I am always floored that I can, anywhere in the state of Texas, typically go find that game warden, look at the phone number, and call them. And either I leave a voicemail and they call back, which is the shocking part to me. They call back, or they pick the phone up. And they're like, hey, this is, so-and-so. What's up?
Yeah.
So Mike, it's amazing. So I talked to Gary Miller a couple times, and last year, I had like the end of duck season, in very last day of deer season. I'm coming out of the woods a little early because I was in a kayak and I didn't want to have to deal with dark and all that. So, and I'd hunted all day, and I was kind of like, all right, I'm giving up. I've done enough. I'm going home. I'm tired. And so I came out, and he was there checking duck hunters is what he was doing, because there's a boat ramp right there. And so I pull up, and he's like, "Hey, shoot any ducks?" I'm like, "No, I'm deer hunting." And he's like, he looks, and he's like, he sees my bow, and he sees my deer stand, and he's like, well, "Where are you going that you put in your kayak at this boat ramp?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going down here and around this creek, and this is where I'm kind of at." And he was like, "You paddled back there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's where I just kind of trying to get into a different spot." And he's like, "Well, good for you, man." And he was like, "Well, let me see your hunting license." And he looks at my name. He's like, "Oh, I know you." He was like, "I know you." And we sit, and he was like, "Here you go, man. You're looked at all my stuff, but he was just like, "Here, yeah, you're fine, man. You're clearly not doing anything wrong." And we ended up sitting there for another hour just swapping stories about like, "Oh man, see these? I've got these deer." I was showing him a bunch of deer I had on camera, and he was showing me a bunch of deer that unfortunately got hit by cars, and but it's just like to have that kind of a relationship with somebody like that is. I feel like people can like a new hunter could be intimidated by a game warden, like, oh God, and there's no reason to be. I've never met one. I've never had one be rude to me.
If you're not doing anything wrong, I know buddies that the public was too thick, so they got on the private land fence line and they walked it back to the parking lot, and that warden watched him, and he didn't have any mercy on them, and he got them for their hunter's orange they weren't wearing. So he made a lot of mistakes that day. Whereas for me, I came out on opening day with a stand on my back, and I was humping it out. Whereas at least in that part of Texas, where there's enough trees for people are using tree stands. He knows people are leaving tree stands up, and there's nothing you can do about it, and they're gonna do it. But whenever you see a young guy like I'm sweating my nuts off
Bullets,
at 93
yeah,
degrees.
exactly.
He looked at my thing. I didn't have the archery stamp. It was like my first year hunting public land. He's like, dude, just go get the archery tag and don't worry about it. But get it now. And so, yeah, like you said, it's all circumstantial, situational. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad to hear that. That's how it should be as far as answering the phone goes. There's a lot of times where I'll get a call from a number, but maybe I'm on 10 o'clock at night. I'm on the side of the road with 4 guys, 4 rifles, and they're intoxicated. So I might not answer it,
yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah,
What's up?
As soon as I get to, I'll try to call them back, and we pride ourselves on that because of the 24/7 call. Yeah, a lot of times we get, hey, do we get like people calling you randomly? No, I don't think it's smart to call a police officer anyway and just prank call or whatever. And it doesn't happen, so that's good. We don't track that number down, but we get good, positive feedback, and that's exactly the relationship that you have with Warden Miller that helps to protect those resources in the area. Because you're his eyes and ears out there, your friend's eyes and ears out there, and so is he. You gotta have that relationship because we're all in it together.
Yeah. And sure, and I think that was one of the things that I was out scouting one time, and we were walking back but we didn't have anything besides some cameras and some batteries and some SD cards, and we pulled up, and somebody, I'm always amazed at how dumb people who do things are. We pulled up, and there was a car with a shotgun, like a case of shotgun shells, just empty on the back of their truck. In March, like in a time where you're like, you're not, like, I can't remember the exact day, but like basically in a time where like you shouldn't be out there with a shotgun, and we're like, oh, that's weird, and so we kind of walk off, and sure enough, we hear boom, and. All right, and we're like, okay, well, maybe it's because we were on public but kind of near private, and sure enough, we were like, oh, I wonder what that is, and boom, we're like, oh, that's on public for sure, and then all of a sudden these guys came out, and it was funny that they were carrying a shotgun illegally, shooting illegally, but had hunter's orange on. Like, somehow that was like, and sure enough, we let them go through, and they kind of walked past, and we're like, how you doing, and just kind of kept moving. And then we called Gary Miller. We're like, here's the deal. I don't know his license plate number, but he's in a white Honda Civic, and he's got a box of shotgun shells. He was like, I'm not far. I'll go down there and check it out. But it was just like, dude, what are you doing, like.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what we run into.
What's if you can tell me, and I understand if you can't, but like what's like one of the things that you've encountered in your career that you just shook your head at, and you're just like, what in the hell were you even thinking? Like.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. That one case I talked about earlier with those individuals that shot that mule deer, just the way they did it so callously, and then it ended up being in civil restitution alone, on top of the criminal stuff, it was $10,000 civil restitution for charged on those individuals, including taking the weapons and having them forfeited. And so, that'll continue to happen. Mike, the question I get a lot is, what was your first case? Did you left me some big road hunting case and this, that? Well, it's kind of interesting, and sad at the same time. We ended up. It was opening day Dove, get out there, which is coming up, we all know. So it was opening day at Dove, out there with my partner, you're not ready to go, straight out of the academy, and we see these group of hunters, and these birds are coming in thick. I mean, just so we're like, all right, let's get a good vantage point. They're coming in pretty thick. Let's keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing it right. Kind of count some birds here and look for some honesty here in a bit. And so we get down by this caliche pit and end up seeing this lifted truck in the middle of nowhere, very suspicious, like. Dark, blacked out windows. They're like, that's kind of interesting. And we ended up going to make a contact with them, and they ended up having drugs, warrants, meth.
Oh my God!
That was my first case, and needless to say, we didn't get to check those dove hunters that day. But you never know what you're going to run into when you're out at 2 a.m. and you're on these roads, and so it's interesting. I can always point to some of these large cases with the mule deer or the pronghorn, but it's knowing that you have an effect and you're protecting that area for those hunters too, because if you're adjacent to public land, you don't want those individuals, messing with your hunting or causing you any harm or.
They're typically the ones that steal your stuff on public land too.
Yeah. Right. That is. You're right. Yep. Yeah. You're exactly right. And that happens.
I mean, sure. I every single time I've had hunters on camera, they just look at my thing and then move on. Right. It's not like a. It's not even a big. They don't even mess with it. I don't even get it. They just are like. Give you some funny. The funny ones will do something funny on the camera, which is always I openly encourage. Like
give me something to look at.
Yeah,
it's not going to see deer anyway.
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
Yeah, I can't imagine that some of the stuff that you've seen is just like, and just the fact that you've also you don't deal just with somebody shooting deer illegally at night or whenever you deal with you're rolling around at night and there's some dude who's drunk driving on the road. You got to deal with that too, and so it's like
correct, yeah.
I feel like you guys go way above, like you cover humans and animals where
water.
And water where a lot of people just you got to just deal with some people just have to deal with humans and then call you when there's some sort of an animal thing going on. But
yeah, that's true. Other states are a little different, but in Texas, we're definitely state police officers, and that's part of it too. It goes back to community policing, and if I have that relationship with you as a game warden, I know you're driving down that road. I know you're leaving that public lease. Well, I don't want that same individual that's intoxicated with his headlights on, driving the wrong way, getting into you while you're coming back when you're recreating and enjoying the outdoors. I mean, it's all together, but we are a force multiplier with other agencies, and we work hand in hand with the sheriff's office. And a lot of times, if I'm on Hurricane Harvey, which I was, I'd get a call about somebody trespassing. That's when our partnerships and other agencies help too, because I again can't be in everywhere all at once. So our sheriff's office would send a deputy there to get the information, so I could get another warden there, and by helping out them on some of their cases, it's reciprocal. So we're a full force multiplier, but it's community policing.
Yeah, it's a I can imagine it's an interesting field to do work in, and I'm sure it's like any other career that you're in. There's some points that you kind of want to pull your hair out, and then there's some times that you're like, all right, that was awesome, So to transition a bit here, are you a big hunter? Do you like to hunt and fish a lot?
I do. I like to hunt. Personally, yeah. You're not hunting hunter? Is that what? No, hunting.
Are you a hunting hunter? Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but it does come up. Hey, I'm sure you know all the best spots.
Yeah.
Go out. Yeah. Well, here's the deal, though. I'm sure everybody is already thinking the same thing I'm about to say, and it's the best times to hunt, we're working. The best times to fish, we're working.
Yeah.
And example, out here out west, you have a 9-day mule deer season. 9 days. That's it. And so for me to take off any one of those days to hunt mule deer, that's not fair. I need to be out there. If I did, as soon as I step foot on the land to do some spot stalking, I get a call.
Yeah, the phone's annoying.
There are hot times where I cannot. Personally, I love Sandhill Crane hunting. That is my thing. Love Sandhill Crane, and so I'm kind of a wing shooter in that. Not so much ducks, but the crane, they're fun, they're tasty, and they're tough to take down.
Yeah.
And I love that part. And when I hear the first ones here the next month when they start coming in, that call when they're flying way high, I might probably get them over there when they're coming over Dallas, and that call just you hear that, you're like, ooh, that is fall. I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And it's just that's fall to me, and I love every bit of that.
I'm going on my first crane hunt this year.
You are? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
So,
where do you kind of have an idea where yet? Or
right in your neighborhood, Lubbock. Yeah, so
okay,
yeah. So I'm the I work with an organization called Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and our chapter chairman is a big Sandhill Crane hunter, and he lives in Lubbock as well. And so he goes out a lot and hunts cranes, and so he's like, "Hey, come up here and let's do it." So.
Oh yeah. You got to, and it's the best. This area is the best place to hunt Sandhill crane in all of Texas. You get west of Lubbock into Terry County, where Brownfield is.
Yeah.
Some of those brine lakes. Oh man, it's. I posted a couple to our Lone Star Law Facebook page that they have for us, which is a TV show.
Yep.
What we talk about. I took some film of just thousands and thousands of crane just flying in back to the roost one evening, and it's just beautiful. And there's a lot of times when I'm hunting, I just sit there and just watch and just take it in.
It's so funny that like a lot of places they're just like they don't even either they don't know about them or there's like they just don't get the numbers. It seems as if they're like that part of the state is just covered in them, and they seem to. It's like a magnet. Like so, I feel like Sandhill Crane in West Texas, in like Northwest, like the Panhandle, right? And especially over towards that area, is kind of like stud guard for ducks in Arkansas, right? It's just like the mecca. If you want to shoot Sandhill Cranes, you go up to Amarillo, you go up to Lubbock, and you're probably gonna get into cranes pretty heavily,
You are, and it's fun. And they're tough to take down. They're like pterodactyls. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
They'll take a few shots and kind of smile at you and fly on.
So just a question, and it's something that I have been kicking around as a kind of just as a what am I trying to say here? Kind of a thought of like best way to handle a situation like cranes and big birds like that. When you hunt cranes, what type of shotgun shell are you using? Are you using a 3.5? Are you using a 3-inch? What's kind of your go-to load for that?
Mine, I stick with the 3-inch.
Okay.
And I like number 2s, and it's just what I prefer. I have a Beretta that holds us up to 3.5, but sometimes your shoulder hurts. You're out there and you're shooting enough. I think 3 inches are just good. It's all about placement.
Yeah.
So you bring up a great point, the variety. So you could be hunting from cover blinds where it looks like a big hay bale.
Yep.
And you put up really good, decoys, and they'll come in. You pop out and get them. Or you could pass shoot. A lot of times I pass shoot, which means you are covered up from head to toe, and including face too, because they'll actually flare on the color of your face, and they're very smart. Sight is phenomenal. Yeah. And if you're doing pass shooting, you're hiding crouch behind a mesquite tree. You want to get them a little closer and before you take that shot. And so your shot's going to vary if you need more knockdown power or further travel, maybe pass shooting. If you want something larger when you're in the ground blind because they're right up next to you, that's an option too.
Yeah.
But I like number 2s myself personally.
Yeah, I and this was a kind of to build on what we were talking about earlier about having a relationship with the game warden. Once again, a Gary Miller story. I called Gary and was like, "Hey, Gary, I'm looking in the book, right? The public land book, which anybody who's a public land hunter knows they get. And I just got mine in the mail today, so I'm super excited about it. But it says, where does it say? Maybe it doesn't have it in here anymore. The means and okay. Yeah, it's changed since last year.
It's probably updated.
Oh, here we go. Firearms are restricted to shotguns with non-toxic shock or no larger than number 4 shot, except for general hog season. And I called him and I was like, "Hey, what's the rule on shooting waterfowl with 2-shot, like just regular 2-shot waterfowl?" He's like, "The way that is written is meant for the small game application, not waterfowl." And so it was funny that it was like, hey, that's you can, if you're hunting waterfowl, you could do that. If you're hunting a squirrel and you're shooting it with a 2, yeah, you're going to get a ticket, bro. Yeah, but, if you're in and so it was just one of those things that that can be the way you look at that and read that, it's kind of like, Can I shoot 2? Is it 4? Are most people okay with like? Does that mean I could shoot like a BB? Where is there a certain rule that is a general kind of concept that you should keep in mind when kind of if I'm at Academy and I'm going to buy a shotgun shell and I'm going out on public land, what would you buy to go hunt ducks?
Well, all right, yeah. So every species is going to be different and specific, right? So let's compare the ducks and the crane. And a lot of people think that Sandhill Crane are migratory waterfowl, which, and I know y'all know, that they're not actually waterfowl. They're migratory game birds. So you can use lead on a Sandhill Crane, whereas you have to use non-toxic shot on the ducks. Wow. The trouble comes in when, hey, if you go on a guided hunt or something out here west of Lubbock, you might have the opportunity to take down some snow geese or some Canada geese. But to take a shot, it's really good to take down, say, a Sandhill Crane. You just kind of want to make sure, all right, what am I hunting today? What are the options? And is there even going to be an option to shoot and take down any geese? If there is, you want to put, that lead shot away and just have nothing but steel or other. And so and it takes a little bit of studying. And you bring up a good point. Some parts of the book or the app now, which we're pushing a lot of people to because it's updated instantaneously. I mean, just doing something changes, they'll update it. If it seems confusing, that's the whole part. You study what you're going to hunt for that particular weekend or month, and then, come springtime when you're hunting something else, you look up the regulations. Game wardens ourselves, we're constantly having to keep up and reread regulations.
Sure.
As well, it's a thick book. I mean, y'all see it. There's a lot of information in there, and if public gets confused, that's what we're here for too. Now, I'll call on my phone to say, hey, do I need a hunting license to hunt deer? That's a stupid.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
What do you call me? You can probably just Google that and get it. But something that's weird like that, like, hey, Warden Sims, are Sandhill Crane waterfowl? Can I use lead shot? I hear people talking hunting. What's the real answer? Okay, I'm cool. I can clean that up, no problem. Because I always tell them I'd rather answer it over the phone than in the field because usually it's 2 different outcomes.
Absolutely, that's the thing. And so, I mean, I was worried that I was like, oh my god, I bought this, and then I read because I bought it because I was like, I was having some trouble shooting them using like 6-shot or 5-shot or 4-shot, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna drop down a size and see what that does. But then I bought it and I talked to a buddy of mine, and he was like, dude, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can shoot that. And so I was like, oh, well, you know what? Thankfully, I know somebody who I can call, and I called Gary, and he's like, no, you're good, man. I'm not. He's like, I feel like you would be hard-pressed if you came in and you were clearly a duck hunter and you had 2-shot, that somebody was going to write you a ticket for 2-shot, And so, I mean, as long as it was steel, right? You're not shooting, like non-toxic, you're good to go. So, but it's just like things like that they are super confusing. And we were talking earlier about kind of barrier entry of new hunters and trying to get into it. And I think I think it may be one of those things that can seem intimidating, but if you just kind of are brave enough to kind of go out and hunt, you're brave enough to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, I'm new. I don't know. And I'm always amazed that, I feel like if I was a brand new hunter, I could probably call, you or Gary or any game warden in the area and go, I'd like to get into hunting. Do you have somebody who you could recommend I could talk to? And they'll probably go, yeah, I do. Give me a minute. I'm going to text you Billy, White Shoes' number, and he's going to help you out, and it's such a good relationship and a community to be a part of that I'm very fortunate to kind of have developed that relationship with the game warden at the place where I hunt a lot. So.
Yeah, and it can be intimidating, especially somebody starting out or somebody maybe that is from another state. Because, state regulations vary. You go to Oklahoma, Colorado, they're going to be different.
Yep.
And so, it can be intimidating, and just getting out there, maybe connecting with some outdoor organizations like the one you just mentioned earlier, some of the nonprofits, get people out. And I tell you, the first step and a great step is the public hunting lands. And just, if people are interested, they can go to our website, and there's actually hunting workshops that are specifically not just for youth, but for adults that haven't hunted before. and we're going to have a biologist or a game warden or somebody in that wildlife management area actually guide you into the steps of this is what you're going to need, and then actually take them hunting. So they're hunting workshops to get that 25-year-old, 30-year-old out
Austin
there
did it.
Hunting. So we realized that the problem, we're trying to step up a little bit of that information campaign because we want people to hunt because it benefits all species, not just game species.
Absolutely. I wish he was here to talk about it because one of the other guys on our podcast, Austin, actually did that with waterfowl. He's like, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm a waterfowl hunter. Been a waterfowl hunter. I'm gonna go to a beginner workshop and just see like what am I think that I'm doing versus what are kind of some of the basics that I can learn. And he learned a lot. He was like, oh my God. I walked out of there and learned, granted, there were some things that were some elementary things, obviously, because it's a beginner waterfowl course. But he's like, yeah, I learned, I learned a lot of things that I could take away as more of an intermediate to advanced waterfowl hunter, as opposed to somebody who was like, I want to do this. What do I need? How do I do this? Right? And so, what can I do and what can I do? So there were some elementary things that he was like, cool, good concept, good basic fundamental stuff to know. But there were a lot of things too that he was like, never even thought about that, And so I think there's a lot of those things that can go on as well, even if you're a more seasoned, advanced hunter or an intermediate hunter. Maybe you're just a couple years into it and you're like, all right, well, I get don't point the gun at you when you cross a fence, or don't cross that fence, or I know kind of the general rules, but maybe some other things that can be a little bit more just a different way to think about them,
Yeah, it's no different than when we teach hunter education. We've taught it hundreds and hundreds of times. Well, because of the dynamic of different hunters being in there and questions that are asked, we learn something every time we connect with one of those hunter ed groups too. So yeah, just like your friend, same deal. You be an expert hunter and pick up some things, and it's no different for game wardens.
100%.
Yeah.
So, you've answered the next question I was going to ask you, which was, is being a game warden getting in the way of hunting and fishing? Which obviously, yes, it does. You got to get creative. You got to go hunt Arizona in January. What? I guess that's even in the late. You can't even do that.
Yeah.
Because that's the end of season, which I'm sure you're kind of like, oh God, that's probably a high traffic time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I tell you the benefits of being out there and being out in the outdoors, seeing that sunrise, hearing, we'll say, the Sandhill Crane start chirping, knowing the hunters are, hear those first shots, and I'm there. I'm just not hunting.
Sure.
So I'm there. We kind of sharing some of that joy, and when I get to check, especially when I get to check multi-generational groups of hunters, a lot of times on public land, they'll have a great conversation, and I feed off their joy. Although I can't just grab a shotgun and go do my uniform. Yeah. By the fact that they're appreciating it and they're enjoying it and they're passing that tradition on, I mean, that just you're not a good game warden if that doesn't light you up in a good way.
What does that conversation look around like? Let's say the day before opening day, and clearly, like if you're in a county that has a lot of public land, I would imagine that there's a special emphasis on like someone being at the like parking lot of the most popular parking lot of that piece of public land to check the hunters coming out of there, as opposed to just riding around like and as if I know what a normal day in the game warden's life looks like. I don't know, but it's more like it's unfavored in that sense. Like it's more like spread out. Whereas I guess my question is, on opening day of like any season, is the public land kind of the special like?
Is that where you're going to? Is that the hot spot?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you saying are we going there just because there's hunters to check? Is that what you're saying?
No. Yes, I got the sound bite. Let's close it down. No.
No, we go where we're needed, and we feed off information. If I've been having issues on a particular plot over here of public lease land, then I'll probably start out there first thing in the morning. If I know I'm having issues, which I keep notes and I keep years and I write it down in a day. Everybody has their own little book, and
sure.
I'm actually working a certain road hunting case in a particular county I won't mention, and they're there every morning, and I'm just trying to narrow down the time to catch them. So I'm probably going to focus on that first thing in the morning, and then maybe round out and try and check for compliance on the public land later. So it really just depends on where we're needed, and then all my plans can change at the drop of a hat when I get a call of something going on. And that's frustrating, especially when you've been working a case for years. They're just going to be coming down the road, and you get a call of, maybe a hunting accident. Somebody wasn't paying attention to their zone of fire and, got peppered. Hunting accidents, we investigate, so I'll have to drop that, go over there and take care of that. And, we go where the business is, but you bring up an excellent point. I'm glad you did as far as what day and opening day. I remind folks that, there's going to be an opening day September 1st is not going to be on that first part of the weekend. So if it starts, say, September 1st is a Sunday, for example, yeah, we're probably going to be out Saturday to make sure people aren't getting that jumping the gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting the stuff early, and we're going to handle that with education before, but you bet we're going to be riding the day before to make sure people aren't taking that resource before they're supposed to. Because they might, you're a legal hunter, you've scouted it, it's a good spot, you think somebody in there that comes in the day before and blasts all the birds away, that's not good.
No.
So,
we'll
be out the day before. So pay attention to when those opening days are. They don't always fall on a Saturday.
So one thing I've always been super interested to know is, okay, so let's take this perfect example is what we have this year with Dove. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, no go. Sunday, go. Now the good thing we got Monday, right? So let's say I've scouted a piece of public land for Dove. I'm like, man, I know flight path in and out. I've spent sun ups and sundowns. I know exactly how those birds are moving and working this piece of property. So I know that Sunday morning, if I want to hit my limit, I'm going to sit right here. Okay? And so because I put all that effort in, I'm going to go sit there maybe 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning.
To get the spot, to claim it.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything wrong. I've got a chair. I've got some coffee. I've got maybe my gun's in the truck or maybe my gun's sitting right there, but I'm sitting there. I may be even taking a little bit of a nap. Is that wrong?
No, there's people that get to certain areas way before the sunset. It's not wrong, and it doesn't mean necessarily we're going to go over there and wake you up and say, "Hey, let me see your life."
Yeah, what's going on, brother? Yeah.
And there's proper times to check, and game wardens, they should be cordial as well. There are times to check that if the birds are coming in, you're getting your first shots. Well, unless I have something pressing, unless I have particular knowledge that somebody's
watched you do some stupid shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also be watching for things, but if the birds are coming in, let them get their shots.
Yeah.
I'm not there to ruin fun or get in the way. Especially at certain times. Especially dealing with deer, you're getting that real crepuscular time where, all right, they're going to start moving. I know they are. Not a time for me to go up there and knock on a stand and say, "Hey, can I see your license?"
let's get down and check. Yeah.
Right, and ruin the spot. So there are times if we have to have immediate checks, we'll do it, but we'll sit there and watch. And there's people that get in there early, and hey, I would hope you'd have coffee if you got there that early.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing with us on duck hunting. We're like, man, what is there a such thing as too early? I mean, we're not. I mean, it's like I think the proper assumption is we're not doing anything wrong. We're just there, but we are there, and it's kind of ahead of time, and we're waiting for the sun to come up, and so for us in teal, we're super excited this year. We're like, man, can we, what time can you get there and make sure you're in the right spot, because it is a battle, and it is if you're a public land hunter, it's just like anything else in life, location, and first man there it's the first come first serve,
I guess at some point it might become camping, where it's like no camping except in designated areas.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't have a tent, but I have a chair and a thermocell.
Yeah.
And
so
and you can scout. It's just all about taking that too, right? Obviously, y'all know, but for listeners or somebody trying to get into it, mind your times. This is a common mistake for migratory game birds. They'll get that 30 minutes prior to sunrise, but they'll think they'll get that bonus 30 after sunset, just like quail or deer.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, really look up, and Outdoor Annual app is great. Once you download it, you don't need data to access it, so you can always pop that bad boy open. Because migratory game birds, you got to stop right at official sunset. We're talking at the end of so you don't want to push past that 30 minutes extra, because now you're getting into illegal hunting hours by pushing past.
Yeah.
So is there a particular so just like your cell phone, right? So is there a particular place that you would recommend somebody go to get the kind of the, let me ask it this way. Let's say that legal sundown is 7:15. Where are you, like, as a game warden, what are you using to determine that sundown time?
Well, so you can use...
You get what I'm saying?
Like you're using weatherchannel.com.
Yeah.
What do I use?
If I'm using... Yeah.
I use my... Yeah, I know. Like, what app is it? So, first off, most cell phones are set by cell towers, and that's pretty spot on nowadays. So it's pretty easy. And what do I use? I use my official GPS that they gave me from the state. And so it's GPS connected, and it'll tell me what the official sunset, sunrise times are, and I go off of that. But any individual recreation guy can, Weather Channel app or
exactly.
Or, yeah, and your cell phone's pretty accurate.
I feel like if the Weather Channel said 7:15 and my last shot came at 7:01, I'm probably not going to deal with the problem.
Right.
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 But
you're getting close.
Yep.
You're getting close.
Yep. And it gets good. That's the problem sometimes. That's when the hunting gets really good. Crane are coming back to roost, or other birds are flying in. But that's a reason why that's there, because they got to get back to that roost without busting it, so they can rest and be ready for the next day. And I've had people say, "Well, that's when the hunt gets good." I'm like, "Well, yeah."
There's a reason. You can shoot a lot more big deer too if we could hunt at night. And
and it's more important too with deer. I think personally, because you get to that very last time, and you might be able to kind of see the deer at that. You're still in legal hours. But I always encourage people, unless you have a clear shot of that deer, and potentially go, why pull the trigger right at the end of legal times with a deer? Because it's going to run off now. You're trying to find it in the dark, so it's being smart. What may be legal with the deer with their hours, 30 minutes after. You also want to be ethical and make sure you take a good harvest.
Yeah, absolutely.
That animal. Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed just talking about the book and public land. That seems to be different this year and they put it right on the cover, so it's got to be important, is the EOSR. And it says, try it. You should try it, Brandon. So I feel like this
Are you going to try it?
I've thought about why this hasn't been so, like, this is like a,
Holy Grail.
I feel like this is like such a good step, like, which is the for anybody who does not have the book yet or is like, what the hell is EOSR? That's some fancy terminology. It just means electronic on-site registration. So if you've hunted a dove lease or a place that you have to go to, and you go to the little box and you open up and you write your name on it, which is super helpful for anybody out there going, why the hell do I have to do that? It's really helpful. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very helpful for the state of Texas to know how many people are using this place, and is it worth our time? Is it worth dollars for us to maintain this if no one uses it, because it's not beneficial? How wrong or how right am I there?
You're spot on. That is exactly right. And our wildlife division monitors those numbers. One, for density, say for doves. Mm-hmm. They tell me at the end of the month or season to keep me updated. There's a bird to hunter ratio because it's self-reporting, and so now we know. Okay, this would be a good one to maybe at least for next year. It's the highest dove taken to hunter ratio in the whole area. Yeah, let's redo it. Also, it's a user-related project. If we had one that was okay. It wasn't the best for quail, somewhere south of Lubbock, and and nobody, maybe, I think the biologist told me, 3 people all season went and actually hunted there. 3 people. Well, to continue and to pay that lease to have that option for the public doesn't work out. The math does not work out. They're trying the best, obviously, to get those grants to fund those programs, but if they're not getting used, then use your program.
Well, I mean, as a public hunter, if I'm never one to say, hey, let's minimize or take away from any public land that we can in the state, because we're obviously 97% privately held. But
yes, sir.
I also understand that the dollar only goes so far. And so if a dollar could be better used, or is better said, hey, we can take these dollars over here where this thing ain't being used, even though it may be good hunting, and 3 people may go like, oh my God, this is the best place ever, which I know a lot of people are going, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. But I guarantee you,
good. It's
there may be more than 3 people using that property,
Right.
Yeah.
Probably more. They're just going, I'm not signing that stupid thing in the box, And guess what? That's what happens.
And it could take some of that frustration away, too. Maybe it does get utilized, and there's no more paper. Or, dang, I forgot a pen or pencil. So this on-site registration with that My Texas Hunt Harvest app, oh, man, it's a great deal. You check in. Once you enter your customer information ID number, it'll be plugged into our system. You can see your license in that system. And also new for this year, that's actually going to be a way that you can legally show a game warden your hunting license. So if you're hunting something that you don't need to tag, like a turkey or a deer, all right, you're still going to need that physical license. But if you're hunting doves, opening up your either outdoor annual app or your My Texas Hunt Harvest app, it's going to pull your data, and you can show that as your license to that game warden. Bing, bang, boom. And so, that's going to take some of that frustration away, and that's pretty cool deal.
So, when you grab your back pocket, you're like, oh, no. But, I've got it on my phone.
We just think about, the 500 different ways in which you could lose a piece of paper when you're traversing terrain. West Texas or East Texas.
No doubt, yeah.
That's extremely smart. And is that something that Texas is more on the cutting edge of, or is this maybe taken from another state's standards?
Our outdoor annual app, from what I've seen from the other states, is pretty cool, man. It's pretty spot on. They've updated it over, and it's smooth. And if you haven't downloaded it, I know y'all have downloaded
100%.
On it. And while you have data on your Wi-Fi, that's when you plug in your customer information, and man, it's gotten so smooth lately. It's great. So I think compared to other states, we're on the cutting edge, which is nice to see, because we are Texas. Come on, we got to be the best.
I'm pretty sure we carry more hunters. We may be one of the top. If we're not the top, we are the top 2 hunters in the entire country. More people hunt in this state per head, I think, than just about anybody else. Yeah. There's a lot of people who hunt in the state and fish in the state, and it brings me to a point of something that I've talked about on this podcast a bunch, but I think it is a perfect time to talk about, which is the ballot initiative that is going to be in November, for you to vote on a current existing tax. So let's be very clear. This is a tax that is already in place. It is not new. You will not pay any more. It is already there. But what it is going to do is it's going to guarantee and earmark funds to the Texas Parks and Wildlife for all things hunting and fishing. So it's not a new thing. You're not going to be like, oh my God, this widget that I've been buying for $10 is now $12.
Right.
No, it's still $10. It just forces the funding to Texas Parks and Wildlife for a bucket that already exists. And the only thing that you need to do is just go vote yes for it. Go vote, go vote, go vote. Just go vote.
Where do you do this, Abe?
You can register to vote, and it's pretty easy. You can go to the Google box, and you can go, how do I vote? And they will say, here, You moron. Here's what you need to do, and you can do it. And all you have to do is show up and just vote. So, I mean, to be honest with you, if you vote for nothing else, show up and vote for this. And don't, I don't care what you do. Just vote for this. Because it's very important for us to be able to keep doing things like the fact that we bought 25,000 acres for Black Gap. It's very important for us to continue to expand hunting opportunity for people in this state and to have people like Aaron be able to protect these things for us. So that's my rant. I'm done with that. But it's a very near and dear passion thing for me is to make people understand that when they see that, I think a lot of people think about it as like, oh, Jesus, here we go, another tax. No. It's not what that is.
It's here to stay.
It's you're already paying it. That's done. It's money you've already spent this. You might as well let it go to the place that it needs to go to, as opposed to some other, thing that it doesn't need to. So, sorry.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to become informed on it, and exactly. And some people that may not even be interested in hunting or fishing. I speak to a lot of groups that I would say maybe anti-hunting, but maybe they don't like the idea of
Sure.
harvesting animals. And I leave, every time I leave one of those groups or individuals, constituents, I tell them, listen, I know you don't hunt regularly or you don't fish, but if you really care about the outdoor environment and wildlife, you need to purchase your hunt and fishing license.
Yeah.
Because that
Absolutely.
not only goes to and protects and preserves the game species, it's all the other non-game species.
Yeah.
When you look at this itself, and you have, roughly the last numbers I looked, maybe 7% of the population hunt and fish. 7?
Yeah.
And the other 93% of people, I'm hoping that at least care about wildlife, right? So that 7% of good law-abiding hunters and anglers are supporting the other percent in all the other stuff that they might care about, hummingbirds and eagles and all that's
Bird watching.
fun. Bird watching, we're non-consumptive users, and there is a permit for that as well on these public hunting lands. You can get that non-consumptive permit where you not hunt, but you can go and you can hike, and you can go in there and maybe do photography, and so there's options for them as well. Yep, stay informed.
Yeah, it's I think it's a weird thing that, like you said, hunting and fishing is. I'm always amazed when I sit down and talk to somebody who's like, I don't hunt and fish. Man, I do like to go out and look at birds. Or man, I just like to go out and hike. Or I just like to go out and do this. I'm like, well, you realize, like, who pays for that, right? Because your hiking poles didn't pay for that, right? But when I went out and bought a shotgun, and I went out and bought fishing gear, or I went out and bought, bullets or shells or anything like that, those dollars go to that. And I bought a hunting license, and that money goes directly to that, And so, I mean, it's. I think it's the same thing with. I hear, all the time, right, in the hunting community here in Texas, especially, right, the draw hunts. Oh my God! I know it's terrible. This and that. It's bad. It's this. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's $3. B,
$3.
It's go on there and buy it. Like I just am like, the amount of times I bought a lottery ticket, and I'll tell you what, I like. Granted, I would definitely rather win $300 million than a pronghorn hunt, but. I still give my $3. I still put my $10 in for, all my other things. And I've drawn before, and people draw, you can get it. And it's I think it's just you could put those dollars very easily towards the state. And I have no problem donating my annual $100 that I have for my draw tag budget that I'm like, well, that's $100 that I'm gonna get it eventually. I'm gonna draw that one bighorn tag. But if that 5% quits screwing around, we may be able to get 2.
Yeah, and I'll make a plug for a mule deer spot. The newest WMA Wildlife Management Area is out west in Yoakum County. It's called the Yoakum Dunes Wildlife Management Area. In fact, if you go to our website on the public hunting and those drawing hunts, there's a massive mule deer that came from that wildlife management area. And if you're interested in harvesting a beautiful, beautiful, large, healthy, mule deer, put in for it. I mean, they have it on. So they just finished building a site over there too with the building. It's really nice. And so it's a guided hunt. One of our biologists out there, and you can't beat that. They cook for you. You get food too. And so, but you're right. It's like you got to be in it to win it. So,
100%. I tell you what, I'm a big fan every year of those mule deer hunts. I put in for those. I mean, it's just I do. The problem is that I've gotten to where it's just like mule deer hunts and whitetail hunts and turkey hunts.
What's a job,
duck hunts, and so it's like, all right, let's. How far can I push this before my wife has a problem with me? That's the biggest thing. So.
I hear you.
Well, we do have a couple questions from some listeners that we really want to address with you because
okay.
So. One of them is from our good friend Merrill Liggins over at Noble Camel, which is I'm rocking his camo this year. What his question is, what is the law for keeping roadkill antlers?
Yeah,
so
excellent.
Let's do that two-part. What is the law on keeping roadkill antlers, and what is the law on roadkill?
Yes. Okay. So even the general hunter that knows most laws, he gets himself in a bind trying to do the right thing with roadkill deer. All right. So it's illegal to harvest any animal from a public roadway. Period.
Okay.
Deer, fox,
whatever.
Right. Whatever. That includes pieces of that, which would be if you, and this is more the bad side, somebody seeing a buck on the side of the road and then sawing off the antlers and then going about their merry way. And that's not good. Or at worse, cutting the head off
and leaving it,
and then driving off. You could imagine how many phone calls I'm going to get on a headless deer on an actual public road, right?
Yeah, saw clean off. That's gonna.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh God!
Yeah, well, what is that? Or, hey, was this taken illegally elsewhere? Was it one of these poached trophy hunters that shot it at night, didn't want the evidence cut off the head, dumped it?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm all my time investigating this headless deer, which some probably just, maybe they wanted the antlers.
Yeah.
Right? So it prevents a lot of false calls and a lot of wasted effort, time, and man hours dealing with something for just some antlers, if you just want the antlers.
Exactly.
Now on your property, well, have at it.
Yeah.
By all means, get out. So, you cannot take any animal from the roadway, even if it's got a massive set of antlers.
Sure.
What happens most times, I'll get the call, I'll try and get over there, I will take off the antlers and pull it off to the side of the road so I don't get a lot of calls. I'm not going to take the head, unless I'm trying to take some chronic wasting disease. I'll take the antlers in an education box. With that education box, I go to elementary schools. Now I can build that connection with the kids. And these kids that live in the city, never been outside, and I show them a big, huge pair of, mule deer antlers. I go, this came from just 3 miles from the school. The jaws drop and the eyes get big, and they went, what? And so it allows me to use it for education, but stopping on the side of the road, creating hazards on the side of the road, false calls, and putting yourself in danger, not good. Now, that's kind of the more nefarious part. Where somebody could get into trouble is, boom, they hit a deer, it happens, and it happens more and more as people get on the roadways and populations go up. They'll, boom, smack a deer. The deer's dead. Maybe they had to put her down or whatever. Now there's a deer, and they don't want to waste the meat. So a lot of times they're like, well, dang, they're a good hunter going.
I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I was just driving, right?
Yeah. I don't want it to go to waste, right? So what they'll end up doing, unfortunately, sometimes it's like, well, I'll try and make it legal, and let me just put my tag on that roadkill deer to make it legal to transport it to get back. So you're adding a problem on a problem now with you're illegally tagging the animal that was illegally taken. Now you're transporting that. Whereas you can simply call the game warden, and we can issue electronic tags if the meat can go to somewhere good. If they're going to harvest the meat, that's something we can handle.
Sure.
But it's calling and saying, hey, this is what I got.
Here's what I did.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yep. And I can issue electronic tag, no problem. But you see how many calls I give. It's we have the 9 days we talked about mule deer season. It's, generally over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Say it's after Christmas, way long after. I get a call about a truck, which I've got it this last year, driving down the road, and it's a mule deer in the back of a bed of the pickup, and the guy's driving away. What is that person thinking? That good hunter that's saying, I got his license plate, here he is. I come screaming over there. Well, he didn't shoot it on a property. He saw it on the side of the road and loaded it in his truck and decided to take it to his house. So
yeah,
watch
the
like
Honda Civic unfortunately flip it. Watch that mule deer flip over the front of it and was like, well, I'm not letting this go to waste.
Yeah. So that's something. Yeah. So don't leave the roadkill alone. Do not take it. Leave the antlers, and especially if it's a huge buck. If you think it's going to be an issue, obviously you can let the warden know. And the individual can dispatch a deer. I want to say too. They can humanely dispatch a deer that's still alive after it's been in on the road.
All right.
Obviously, it's safety concerns.
Yeah.
But you can dispatch it humanely. A warden does not have to do it. That was what I'm saying.
That is an excellent point. So I am driving, right? My wife's family lives in Amarillo, right? I leave work.
Yeah.
It's like 5:30. I'm driving. It's getting dark. It's that time, right? They're moving. Out of nowhere, boom, a doe just clips the side of my car, flips over, is like laying there, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what do I do here? So if it's sitting there, let's say I do have a pistol. I've got my CHL, I've got my concealed carrier, or I don't even have a concealed carrier, right? Where I've got a gun in my car, and I can shoot that deer.
Yeah, you can humanely dispatch that deer. Yes, sir. Yep, not a problem at all. And when they call and let us know,
call you first or dispatch deer first.
You don't even necessarily have to. In fact, my phone blows up a lot, and especially during deer season when they're in a rut, they're getting a lot. I don't need to hear that shot. No, you don't even have to call them. No, if you're getting people looking at you and you want to just let them know, a courtesy text message, that's fine too. But because the first thing I'm going to ask is that, hey, is it off the road? Are you in a safe position? Can you safely dispatch it without shooting towards another vehicle?
Be smart here, people.
Smart, but yeah, you can humanely dispatch that deer, and I would rather have you do it than me take an hour and a half to get there and it's suffering the whole time with broken back legs or whatever, or it could crawl into the roadway and cause another issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So dispatching it, a citizen can do that legally. Yes, sir.
I'm glad we have such common sense.
Right?
Laws,
it makes sense. Now, I will say, it's always funny to talk to new people. And I always like to throw out, I was like, do you know the most pro-hunting organization in the entire world? And every time I'm around people who are, like, not hunters, right? They're always like, I have no idea who. And I'm like, it's the insurance agencies. They're like, kill all these sumbitches, They're like, please, God, we want more hunting seasons, longer hunting seasons, like whatever it takes to get rid of more deer so that people stop hitting them. Like, especially like in the East Coast, those people are like super like lobbyists for like deer season and like all that, amongst other things they do, which is I'm not so proud of. But so there you go, Mario. There's your answer. Leave the antlers, call the game warden, and take it from there. Okay, so this is from the Element boys, and what is the definition of legal hunting distance from the road?
Right. This question comes off quite a bit during the hunting season. And so let's break it down a little bit without getting into weeds.
Sure.
Road is a commonly used term, but the way it's cited in the code is roadway, public roadway.
Sure.
So there's a bar ditch that's attached right next to the county road or the pavement and asphalt. That is still part of the roadway. In fact, it's not a distance. There is no foot distance. So what it is, it's a roadway. Whatever the roadway maintenance ends, that is where the roadway ends.
Which is typically where the private begins.
Yeah, you got it. Yes, sir. A lot of good markers on some of the county roads are fence lines, crop lines, utility poles. But off that berm and off that bar ditch, And you could be right up against it. In a sense, you could. You could be sitting right up against that bar ditch as long as you're shooting towards the other direction.
Yeah.
But there's no exact distance in feet. It's just you have to be off the roadway completely, which is generally over the fence, like you said, the utility poles or where the crop line starts. And don't be tempted. A lot of times with birds fly. You get tunnel vision, you see it, you take a swing, it flies over the roadway, boom, now you're shooting over the roadway. That's not good. Because you can't shoot on or across a public roadway. So mind your shots if you are going to be sitting there. Make sure you don't get tempted and shoot across that roadway because that's a violation.
I just don't like hunting where concrete, asphalt, or pea gravel are under my feet anyway.
True that.
So,
True that.
I like
True that.
I like to be in the woods when I'm hunting, believe it or not.
This question has now led me to one other question, and I'm sorry for taking us down this rabbit trail. But let's play a scenario out. Let's say I'm on a piece of place. I'm on a piece of land that I'm legally there, public, private, whatever. I'm legally able to do that. Let's be more specific. I'm sitting in a deer stand, of which I'm legally able to be there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I shoot a deer, and that deer runs, jumps the fence, and dies. Let's call it out of arm reach from the fence.
Right.
Like, what, as a game warden, like, I'm on the blood trail going, yes, I shot a deer. And I get to the trail, I look over, I get to the fence, there it is on the other side of the fence. I have no idea who that is because I don't own Onyx maps.
Yeah.
What do I do?
That is a good program. This call is probably top 5 during hunting season.
Sure.
Probably top 5. And I really try and get on. I'm also a public information officer, so I try and get on the media, TV, radio, print. Really try and educate before the season starts. One of the things I bring up is if you know you're going to be hunting in a particular area, do your homework just like you are for knowing what species, what you're going to hunt, the regulations, time, equipment, license, all that stuff you got to do as a good hunter. Also do that extra step of the homework in saying, okay, what properties surround me and what are their contact numbers? Because trying to call that landowner when it does run across the fence, assuming you have a good number, is not the time to try and contact that adjoining landowner.
No doubt.
That should be part of your checklist and your homework list. And I know it is from talking to y'all, but the other listeners, it should be part of your homework list on, okay, license check, species check, okay, adjoining landowners. There are free ways to get that other than, you mentioned Onyx Maps, really fancy app that you pinpoint you directly on the landowner. You can go to your abstract and title office, you can go to the land assessor office, and you can get that information and then make that contact beforehand. And heck, you might end up making a good neighbor, or maybe you have good relations. He's like, what are you hunting again? Crane? Duck? Okay, well, I own that whole section, 640 acres that you're talking about. I don't mind you going on there. And you might end up doubling your hunting space.
Right.
So,
100%. That's the way it happens.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll let you kill if a deer kill a deer and it jumps over the fence. That's fine. But tell you what, come out here and shoot all the pigs you want. Okay.
Yep. That's generally how it works, and trying to get that relationship beforehand is key. Because I get the call and I'm like, hey, I can't go grab that deer for you. I may have the right to enter private property, but I'm not going to do that. And 2, don't step over that fence, because if that landowner happens to be on that property, and even though you're doing it for a good reason, and for whatever reason he doesn't like you or people or whatever, and he calls me and says, hey, somebody has got on my property, now my hands are tied, and I gotta do what the law says.
Yeah.
And sometimes it kind of sucks. You're like, oh well, I really here, but communication with the landowner, which I would be doing, but you can't cross that line. And so you just have to stop it. At that point, if you didn't contact him, do your homework, trying to figure it out. But the game warden, at that point, I'd say, hey man, you got to figure out who owns the land prior to hunting.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a bad deal.
Call that person first and say, hey man, my name's Abe. I'm going to be hunting here. If I see any shady crap going on,
I'll tell you.
I'm going to call you, and I'm going to call Gary Miller. And I'm going to call Gary Miller, and then I'm going to call you. That way, the law's out on the way out, and you don't even have to do it. I think this is just one of those things that's it's just like it's a piece of dying art in this world, which is just being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
You know,
people would
being a good neighbor, even if it's public land. Guess what?
Right.
That's your land. That's your neighbor. Be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
So,
good question.
So, a couple questions we have left, and this one is going to be. I think this is the most abstract one that I'm going to ask for you, which is how do you handle, like, if you're 100% on the right, how do you handle a game warden who's telling you something different, right? And I think the example that this person gave me is that they were squirrel hunting on a piece of public land, of which corresponded with deer hunting. And the game warden told them, if you go out there and squirrel hunt, I'm going to write you a hunter harassment ticket. How does that work?
And yet you're saying, and it's not the case, right? So this is
you're dealing with somebody telling you maybe something that's not right, and you're the hunter, and you're like, whoa, I'm kind of done my research. I think this is right. How do you handle that, right?
Right. And first off, hunter harassment, it's in there for a reason. It's a good law, and it's not just a citation. It's an arrestable offense. So it's a misdemeanor. You're going to jail for doing that. That was put into play. A lot of times we try and file it on anti-hunters or anti-hunting groups. Will specifically try and scare off animals so that the legal hunter can't harvest their animals. That law is to protect, or a jealous landowner that wants his buck and he thinks it's his, even though it's the property of everybody, and he thinks you're going to get it. He starts firing off stuff, right? So that's a little background on that law. But whether it's a game warden or if it's a trooper on the side of the road that radar you is going at a certain speed, or that's not the time to have tempers flare or to argue the situations. And it could be a speeding ticket from a trooper, or it could be a sheriff's deputy, or whatever.
Sure.
So that conversation, calm, cool conversation, to a point as best you can. And then if you still think something is wrong, then there's a reason why you're not guilty, and you have the right to see a judge and speak with them. That's something you can take up on the flip side. But saying no, you're wrong, or this and that, that kind of tempers up the situation. And even if you are or you're right, it's not the time to kind of handle it in court. Court's not on the field or on the side of the road. It's going to be in the criminal justice system. And
sure.
So just handle patience, and I'm sure it could be frustrating. Don't know the whole full story, but it doesn't mean you're guilty. It doesn't, and so that's why it's our job. We have to say, it's actually part of it. Hey, signing this is not an admission of guilt. It's just promising you're going to contact this judge before this date. Boom. That's it, right? So everybody has a say, and everybody has a right. That's part of the justice system in America. That's their right for sure.
It's just like anything. People make mistakes, and maybe it was a bad day, whatever it is, or whatever it is. Like you said, getting a ticket doesn't mean that you automatically have to suffer the consequences of that. You got a ticket. You got a piece of paper. Now go deal with that piece of paper, and you can very easily go in and go, hey, here's what I was doing. Here's why I was doing it this way. Here are all the things that I say are right. And if you're right, guess what? You're probably going to go, cool, man. Get out of here. That's probably the way it's going to go. Or they're going to go, hey, man, I get why you think that, but here's why you're wrong. And let's take it as a learning lesson. And, maybe it's not a $200 ticket. Maybe it's a $75 ticket. And you go, well, $75 lesson. Guess what? Duck season last year, I got a boat, and I was registered with the local game warden, like the little Texas Parks and Wildlife office here, right? Had an inspection for that boat on the calendar, on the books, already done it, and was not registered. Didn't have a registration, and in addition to this, I will say this right now. It was not Gary Miller, because I've talked about Gary Miller a bunch. It was not Gary Miller. It was somebody else who will remain nameless. I pulled up with Jordan and our another buddy of ours. And there was a game warden. He's like, hey, and I have adopted a very firm, like, I'm going to come to you before you come to me stance. Like, to the point where it's annoying. Like, Game Warden's like, I'm coming to you. I'm like, yeah, but here's my license, and here's all my stuff. Because I have, like, you get down here, you find, but, like, I'm going to come to you before you come to me. And it seems to work out pretty well for me. They respond generally pretty well to that. So I gave him my license. He checks our done. He's like, all right, where's your boater registration? I was like, well, I could not get in until the week after duck season opened. And I decided to come out here anyways, like an idiot.
Yeah.
But I did it. And he was like, all right. He's like, okay, well, first of all, that's a ticket. I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. You do you, man. And he's like, all right. He's like, second of all, you have you took some plywood and you put that in the bottom of your boat. And that should be a ticket. But I'm not going to give it to you because you're clearly not trying to be an asshole here.
You put some plywood at the bottom of your boat.
Yeah, just at the bottom of my John boat, right? Just flooring.
Oh, okay.
And if you have flooring in your boat, you need to have a fire extinguisher. I didn't have that. And he was like, well, that's something you should also need. See, like 3 or 4 things. He was like, hey, man, like, you got to get all this. And I see that you have this big white light, this big LED light bar. But guess what? You still need a green and red light and a white light on the back of your boat. I was like, I just thought that the green and red light and the white light on the back, which I knew about but didn't do because I was like, I have this giant like LED, like 22-inch LED light on the front of my boat that clearly no one's going to like, they see me from a mile away, right?
You're taking the approach of, I just have an oversized kayak here. He's
Yeah.
like, you have a boat, though, so...
And it had a trolling motor on it.
Yeah.
It didn't have a gas motor, but it had a trolling motor. So I got a ticket. I walked into the to the office, and I said, hey, here is my boat registration, because guess what? I went and got my boat registered, and they were like, your $200 ticket is now $25. Thanks for doing business.
Wow.
I was like, I'm cool with that being a $25 lesson. Yeah. And so now my boat is registered with numbers on the side. I have my boater registration. I've got a fire extinguisher. I have lights on my boat that are proper. And now the one thing I will ask is this, is that he did tell me, clearly you have a big white light on your boat, which no one can not see. Don't drive around with that on. Is that a rule? Is that a law? What's the deal with that big LED light? Because, when you're going out in the middle of the night to duck hunt, and we have since upgraded from a 14-foot John boat that is 8 centimeters wide to an 18-foot, 78-foot wide boat. We have a big John boat now. Right? We have a big flat-bottom Godoval surface drive that is legal, right? Let's be very clear. Has the green and red lights, the lights in the back, but we also have a giant LED light on. Should we? Yeah. Can we run with the LED light on, or should we not?
Right. No. So the answer would be no, and it's for navigational rules. And I know listeners might be thinking, what is all this equipment? How do they know? We have hunter education, which is very important. It's been in place since 1988. Anyone born on or after September 2nd, 1971, so on or after that, has to have hunter education. Well, we did the same thing with boater education. So anyone born on, we have to phase it in, obviously, because it's relatively new. Anyone born on or after September 1st, 1993, and operating a vessel is required to have boater education. And these things you're talking about, the listeners are like, what? Lights, red, green, all that is covered just as if the hunting stuff is covered in hunter education. So to operate a motorboat, you're going to learn some of these things like navigational lights.
Yeah.
The red green lets you know what direction that boat is going in. The 360 all around gives you coverage to see you from all directions. And the problem with those spotlights or in the
LED
larger
lights,
boats, the docking lights, they blind other boaters when they're on the water. You see, it's like a freight train coming at you. So if you're going to dock, boom, turn them on, and there you go. But yeah, no freight train when you're in when you're en route. Not
yeah. When you're on plane rolling around the lake, don't turn them on.
Yeah.
Right, and I'll have it. I'll be checking boners, going, gosh, damn, I can't see. It looks like a truck coming at me. And so we'll tell them, hey, turn those off and use them for docking only. So yeah, don't operate with the LED light. Your red, green, and 360 all around will be just fine. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Brandon, were you born before or after?
I got
93?
my boater's education in 2007.
Jesus Christ!
Look at that.
Look, here's the
Look
deal.
at that.
Here's the deal with me and boater's education. Like I saw it was a thing, but I'm like, what the hell is this? And why has nobody told me I need to get this?
And then you're like, oh, it's for children.
Oh, it's for children. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade when I got it.
So. 7th grade in 93. Yeah. Wow.
No, in 2007. 7th grade in 93.
You were in 7th grade in 2007? Mm. Oh, Jesus Christ. Aaron, I don't know if you've picked up on this, but our buddy here, Brandon, is the youngin in our group.
Yeah.
So
I'm only 12 years your junior.
I turned 35 here in a couple months. I don't know if that puts me older.
You're younger than me, man. Like I'm I'm only 30. I'm 35 right now, so it's not like you're like that much old. It's not like we're like, oh, Jesus, child, Jesus, whippersnapper. But we do that for Brandon a lot. We're like,
yeah, so
you did what? When?
So you're 16. What does your weekend look like?
Exactly.
I don't know what the kids do anymore.
I'm like, are you on the Tinder?
Are you on? What is
the
online
Tinder
dating? What is that thing?
Yeah, it's a constant with our buddy Aaron. We're like, hey, can you make our computers work?
Right. Yep. So good question on that. Yeah. So sometimes that blends into from hunting to water safety, and that's something that we'll check for sure. Yeah. Life jackets. Hey, I can't leave without saying, my goodness.
No doubt.
My goodness. Wear a life jacket. I don't care if you don't think you look cool. It's your seatbelt on the water.
Yeah.
If you hit a stump, if you go over, if the engine gets hit, whatever, you're going to go over. And even the best swimmer, if you're unconscious, you're not going to be able to swim one. Even the best swimmer, so wear those life jackets. That's the worst part of being a game warden is recovery from drowning victims. Yeah. Awful. Awful. And it's something we try and point home. So wear life jackets. You can get the smaller ones that inflate when you hit the water.
Yeah.
Wear those.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's why he was so lenient on me, is because he was like, the one thing you have in this boat is life jackets for everybody.
Life jacket.
So I feel like I owe you a break. I was like, I got 3 guys in this boat. We've got 4 life jackets and a throwable. Because I was like, I got a throwable. He's like, thank you. You were like... You just got a C- in algebra. You passed.
You passed.
Not by much, but you passed.
Yeah. So wear them. Yep.
I was like, what about this whistle? Does that count for anything? He's like, no.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it does.
It does.
It does, but he was just like, for a boat,
legally does
I'd
nothing.
rather you have a red light and a green light on the front of it than a whistle, though. But I went, like I said, I went the next week. I got my boat inspected, and it was all good.
You're a good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
And then I had to drive out to. The worst part of that is I had to drive out to Quinlan to go pay my $25 ticket, and then drive to work, which was not fun. But
right.
Even the best of us get stopped. Well, everybody's going to get stopped, because that's the one thing. If you're a public land hunter, you will. It is
not a matter of if.
And I'll tell you this, I have another game warden story where I did some stupid shit that I shouldn't have done, but I killed a deer on private land, and then processed that deer, tagged it, all right, processed it, got it all done, and then I was like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this tag, I'm going to keep it in my truck, and just it's filled out. It's not like it's blank or anything. I wasn't doing anything stupid like that. But I was like, I'm just going to keep this with me just in case some shit happens. And I guarantee you, I bet one of the biggest offenses, I would like to think it would be a biggest offense, maybe it's not, is people who tag a deer properly, right? They take their tag. They shoot a deer. They take that tag out. They cut it out. They cut everything right. They put the shit on the back of that tag, but they forget to turn their hunting license over and then put the log that they should fill out.
Harvest log. The harvest log.
The harvest log.
Yeah.
So I was on Lake Meredith, actually, and rolled back to the parking lot, and I had just walked like 3 miles out from Lake Meredith back to the truck, and there were 2 U.S. Forest Service guys, right? And I was like, I'm walking up, I'm like, what's up, guys? I saw them from where I was sitting because I had my spotting scope and my binoculars, and I was like, oh, there's a game warden at the parking lot because, you know, Aaron, West Texas is flat, and you can see a long way.
You can.
Not like it is here in Dallas, where we're from. So I walk over there, and I knew exactly what I was walking in, and I had already had my license out. I was like, here you go. If you don't mind, I'm just going to set all this crap down in my truck. And he was like, yeah, you're fine, bro. And he's like, hey, you forgot to fill out your harvest log. And I was like, he's like, do you remember any of the details? I was like, I actually have the tag, you know. And he was like, oh, and he could clearly see like that it was the tag. He's like, all right, just fill this out, you know. And that's all I had to do. I filled it out and I moved on. But I bet that's a big thing that happens.
It's a common thing for sure, and it's something that you can get checked in July after hunting season. And you're fishing, you got a super combo. I see some tags are missing. That's part of the job is flipping it over and looking. And some people say, well, you know, what's the point? It's just writing it down. You got to realize it's some antler restriction counties. It's very important. It goes to the paper trail. It's illegally harvested. Was it a 1-buck county? Was it a 2-buck county? Which one? And so that's the paper trail. And most times we can handle it with, oh man, I got a picture on my phone. Here it is. I mean, this is the exact day I took. You know, we'll fill it out and do it.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that's something. Mule deer, you don't have to worry about that. But the whitetail with the harvest log, yeah, flip it around back and be familiar with it before you go out and get your first deer, because you know, it can be confusing at times.
Yeah. If
you're new.
So I have 2 questions, and I'm sorry you keep talking about things that keep bringing up questions. And I know we're going a bit long here, but sorry I have to ask these. The first question is that AR rule. First and foremost, I'd like to go on record right now going, I think it's a good rule. And I think that for every single person who says something bad about it, I think we could probably say about 8 things that are good about it, if not more. But as a game warden, Aaron, for those of us going, what is that? Okay, so if you shoot a whitetail deer, or if you're looking at a whitetail deer, if their ears are at alert and the antlers are outside of those ears, you're good, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the 13-inch antler restriction.
The AR, 13-inch rule, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So let's say that I shoot a deer, I look at a deer, I look at alert, and by all means of matter that I'm sitting at, with the best intent in my life, I look at that deer and I'm saying, okay, that deer's at alert. I have done everything I can to get that deer to put his ears up, to do the best judgment I can do, right? Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, I get it down and it's 12 and, you know,
3/4,
right? You're like, what the hell, right? Have you ever written a ticket for something like that? That's that's that close, right? Not 10 inches, and you're like, dude, the freaking antlers touch each other. Like, I can't excuse that, but like something that you're like, you look at it and you go, that's 13. Like, you would even like go, that's 13 inches. Then you put the tape measure to, and you're like, we're a little short here. Like, how does that work in your world?
It's in my world, going back to, I know we've talked about it a lot, but it's the totality of the circumstances. So what led up to it? Is it a hunter that's been hunting all his life? How close is it? What's the relationship? Did he call me or did I stumble across him? Mm-hmm. All these factors go into play. Now, I can say what the law says, and if it's under 13, then it would be illegal. But But no, not necessarily. I mean, that's what the law is. But education sometimes is a great component to keep somebody hunting. And if it's education we need to use, and there's nothing wrong with a written warning too, because when I write written warnings, what that tells that person, and it tells me, and we keep track of these things. It just doesn't get thrown in the trash because it's warning. It gets input into our system, and there's warnings, and we realize that we're educating people with a written warning. It's not always bad. Maybe that individual has never had anything at all, but maybe the individual, when I look them up in the system, has 5 previous citation warnings for antler restriction violations.
Get you in a ticket. Yeah.
Probably going to play into my decision point. Did he call me and say, "Whoa, hey man, it's like right on the edge"? So obviously all those things come into play. So have I written that on that given situation? No, I have not. Have I written a written warning on certain situations? Yeah, I have. But you got to realize in our neck of the woods, far west, we're dealing with the mule deer antler restriction now. It's relatively brand new. Yep. Not the 13-inch, it's the 20 inches, and it's the outside main beam spread of 20 inches. Because at 21 inches, based off studies, without getting in the weeds, that's generally a mature buck for harvest. 21. So 20 inches is the minimum for mule deer, and we're dealing with that. And obviously, new law, there's one county, Lynn County, just south of Lubbock County. It's going to have an antler restriction for the first time this season. So you'll have hunters going out there, maybe they're working, living life. They might not know. So education is going to be a key component in those 100%. Decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to always checking, I've hunted Oklahoma for years, but different pieces of public land have different rules, and they have, there is no antler restriction up there, but there's definitely, different from WMA to WMA and from county to county, and it's always and year to year. I mean, so just because you've hunted somewhere for a couple of years, it could change like that in an instant, and you'll find yourself thinking you're being completely innocent to being finding maybe yourself in a sticky situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at some of the bag limits. They changed too. We're talking about ducks. Intel's dropping from 2 to 1 for the bag limit, and so that's going to be new. That's going to be new for this year. So making sure you don't get 2 pintails and you stick to 1. That's something you want to refresh, and that just changed from last year.
Yeah.
So keep it up on it, smart.
Yeah. Yeah. What's you said so? That's one notable change you said you've seen in Lynn County. What's some other ones you've seen around your area, or maybe just around the state that comes to your attention that you'd like people to know about? Or maybe it's a gun law change, or maybe it's a classification change of weaponry.
Right. So very important. Obviously, the mule deer restriction is going to be in Lynn County. That's far west out here. But something statewide just led to it. The pintail in your aggregate of 6 of your ducks for your bag limit is going to be dropping to 1. So 1 pintail in daily bag limit in your aggregate of 6. Also, showing your license. I mentioned this earlier, but it's actually going to be a legal means of showing your license. One of 4 ways: a digital photo, an emailed receipt of your transaction.
Oh, wow.
Through an app of ours, which is the Outdoor Annual or the Hunt Harvest app, or an online purchase record, printing it off and showing it, accessing it on your phone. That's going to be a legal way to show your license. It hasn't been that way before.
No.
Obviously, wardens have been utilizing their discretion on, hey, you're 5-day non-resident special hunting license. You flew in last night. You don't need to tag anything. You show me an email receipt. That's pretty much how we've been operating. Yeah. But now it's law, and that's statewide. And so download those apps and have those on your person when you go to show those wardens. So those are just off the top of my head. And then, of course, checking in on public lands, check-in is going to be nice. It's going to be a saver. Mm-hmm.
What is the I know in Oklahoma they did the open carry, you can open carry on public land. Is there any have you heard anything about that for Texas, or is that...
No, sir. And that's a great question. And no, I haven't heard anything new on that. But there are. You mentioned this earlier. Every WMA or public lease property might be a little different, and not every public lease land in Texas is the same either. Some are just for doves. Some are for quail and doves. Some are for feral hogs. And assuming that you can hunt, say, doves on a really good spot for it and not check that it's a quail-only public lease, that should get you in a bind quick. And it's not that we're setting all these weird different rules and making it confusing. Remember, these are private lands that we pay to lease for the public. And on those contracts, those landowners set those stipulations on, hey, I'm going to allow ATVs. Hey, I'm going to allow hunting dogs. Or maybe the other person doesn't want hunting dogs on there. Or doesn't want ATVs. Or maybe one allows for camping. And so, yeah, any individual rule for these leases you want to check on from year to year. And, and really mind your bag limits on these areas too. But really, check those regulations on carrying or as far as
if you're a public land hunter in the state, and the day that your public land book comes in your mailbox is not one of your top 5 days of the year, I don't know if I can be friends with you. Like, I got this in the mail today, and I was like, I've been throwing Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop catalogs, like, to the point where I'm like, how do these people even stay in business? I don't need another catalog, Cabela's. I get it. I'm going on your website and I'm going to buy stuff from you constantly, but God, please stop sending me these things. But when this public land handbook came today, I was like, oh, look, it's all pretty and blue. It's so neat. Last year when it was the 30th anniversary, oh, that was so neat. It was black. It was very cool.
Ooh, very sunny.
I can't wait to go through this thing every year and just look at what's different.
Abe is looking at the Public Hunting Lands book like it's like Christmas night, and he's reading.
Dude, this might as well be a Victoria's Secret catalog, and I was 16 years old. Before the internet, which you don't know what is like.
Yeah, what is pre-internet? I don't
See?
even know it.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron, this kid doesn't even know what pre-internet is. He's never known what a Victoria's Secret catalog meant to a kid.
We're getting off the train.
Exactly. Sorry. So I do have one last question for you. I can't let you go.
Okay.
What is the best pen to sign the back of your hunting license with?
That's a good one. I don't recommend gels. I want to say no to gels.
Yeah.
I don't. They smear when they get wet. A lot of times you're hunting in the outdoors in the elements. You might be able to write it on there and it's gone, or you put it in the ice chest for the meat to keep it cold.
And it
now it's
washes
gone.
away.
Yep. Sometimes Sharpies do the same thing, and so what I use is a fine point roller pen. Is what I use. So you can get any one of those. I mean,
a big pen.
Yeah. Big. I think I got a zebra in my foot, but yeah. So that's what I generally use, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to talk about this since you mentioned the cutting out the dates on the tags. That is a very common violation for a veteran hunter, is to mark out your dates on your deer tag or turkey tag with your pen as opposed to cut it out.
Oh.
So just make sure
Really?
out the pen.
Every time I kill a deer, one of the best things about having to be like, oh shit, I need to fill out my license, is getting to cut out those dates.
On the back.
I love that. That's my favorite thing to do. I can't believe people don't do that.
Yeah, they'll mark it with the pen and Sharpie, and some people can abuse that system. The reason why it's illegal, you finally manage to get it home and put some alcohol on it, rub it away, and they can reuse the tag.
Oh,
That's
wow.
not good.
Yeah.
Cutting it out, and we've taught people to cut it out, and you mentioned it earlier, but since we're talking about pens, make sure you cut the dates out.
No. Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, cutting that little triangle out is like, I don't know. It's just a big thing for me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I will let you get back to your family. We've monopolized your time for 2 hours tonight, and
no problem at all.
We appreciate
I
it.
could talk for hours, especially for y'all that are avid hunters and outdoorsmen. It's a joy to talk, and remember that if you have a friend that doesn't initially get outdoors all that often, bring them out with you. Don't make it intimidating. Invite them outdoors. At least get to reset that electronic button that we're always on all the time. Get outdoors, enjoy it. Report suspicious violations. You can do it anonymously through the OGT Operation Game Thief hotline. That's 800-792-GAME, or contact your local warden directly. Let's all be in it together to protect these resources for future years. And good luck this season. I hope to talk to y'all soon.
Dude, it's like right here. It's right around the corner. I tell you what, for the first time in my life, it is all of a sudden September 1st, and I'm like, oh, God, it's on us. Normally, I'm watching it like a boiling pot of water, and it just never comes upon me. But now I'm like, oh, man, life got in my way. I've got things to do. I've got stuff. I'm behind. I can't wait. I'm going to be on public land on September 1st shooting doves. I got a spot, man. It's Lake Tawakoni.
Nothing better.
We use Lake Tawakoni as a standalone. Like we talk about public land and people comment about, like, Abe, you got to stop talking about all these public land places. So we just decided to talk about one public land spot over and over and over again, and we're just like, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And Aaron, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Go out and support Texas Parks and Wildlife by buying a hunting license, regardless of what your recreational outdoor activities are. You hear me, Brandon?
What are you talking about?
Buy your license.
Jackwagon, of course I bought it.
Yeah. Buy your license or buy a license if you're not a hunter. There's a non-consumptive you can get. Throw a couple bucks in the pot for what you enjoy, whatever you do enjoy about it. You know, going out into the outdoors. Secondary, get out and vote in November for that current in-place tax that's already there. Just let's make sure we get it earmarked to the right place, so it's not doing something for somebody else who we don't care about. Right? Let's get it into the woods. So, outside of that, make sure you go out and buy yourself a ticket to the Full Draw Film Tour in Dallas on September 14th, which is the opening day of teal season, and we get it, right? I'll be hunting teal with Brandon, with Austin, with Jordan on September 14th. But that night, we're gonna go watch some public land. Well, not. We're gonna watch some bow hunting videos, and I've seen them. They're pretty cool. You should come out. Plus, you can win if you want to. So you're gonna pay 30.
I want to win.
You're gonna pay. So Brandon, you've never heard about this, right?
Oh, never.
$30 gets you into the show. Plus, it gets you food and drinks.
Ooh.
If you care to be like, oh, but Abe, can I go one more step further?
Can I go a step further, Abe?
Yes, you can.
What's that step?
You can buy a VIP ticket.
Ooh.
For $40.
Oh, what a deal.
In advance. And that gets you raffle tickets.
Ooh, to win
a pair of... There's going to be a lot of stuff, right? There's a Euro mount for if you kill a deer, which you're going to do on public land this year. I know it. I feel it.
Yeah, we all are. We're all getting it. Be an explosive year.
Right? You get a Euro mount.
Sure.
And you're going to get some details on that soon on the Instagram for Texas BHA. You can win a new bow sight. You can win some arrows. You can win a lot of cool things. But guess what? You can win if you're just like one of the awesome people still listening to this podcast. You win a duck hunt with us.
What?
Yeah. You're going to get to wake up.
Get on the freaking gribble?
Yeah. You're going to get on the gribble.
Yeah.
You're going to get to hang out with us and Max.
Oh, Max.
And probably have Jordan cookie breakfast on the boat. There's no guarantee that we're going to shoot ducks because you're going to go on a public land. So you do have to have a license. You do have to have a Texas annual public hunting permit. If you don't have waders and you don't have a shotgun, we can work with that.
Yeah.
Right?
If you don't have arms.
But if you don't have the proper licensing, we can't deal with that. But you could go on a duck hunt with us, and you're probably going to be on a podcast with us, and you're probably going to shoot a duck, but you're going to have a good time, and we're probably going to get you drunk.
And post-hunt. We got to throw it in there.
Post-hunt. We did have we just did a podcast with the game warden. We should probably talk about not drinking and hunting at the same time.
At the house.
Yeah. But afterwards, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong.
Oh, yeah.
So we super thank Aaron Sims for joining us from Texas Parks and Wildlife, who's been a game warden for a lot of years. Brandon.
It's always nice being here with you, sir.
Right? It's fun.
It's fun. Sitting here, sweating like a,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I feel like this is where Austin would go, all right, this is over.
Yeah.
So we're done. So cue the music. And we appreciate everybody.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks.